10, 9, 8,
7, 6, 5.
Hey everyone, it's Darian Simone Harvin, and welcome to another episode of Am I Allowed to Like Anything? Just a quick announcement that Am I Allowed to Like Anything is now on iTunes, so subscribe, rate, comment, check it out. This week I have James Harness, who is a social media editor at BuzzFeed. He also writes for the site as well, or creates lists. His latest, 15 Things People Waiting for Lady Gaga's New Album Know to Be True. You know, I consider James really a student of pop culture. I love whenever we get together and talk about it. So I hope that you enjoy. And as always, don't be afraid to let me know what you think. I'm on Twitter at Darian Simone. You are one of the people who tweets from the BuzzFeed account.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's you.
It's me when our main Twitter editor is out. So if she's sick,
Got it.
she's awesome.
She's awesome.
She's Brooklyn raised, went to Brooklyn College, has her master's, got a job at BuzzFeed. She's cool. And when I started,
What's her name? Let's shout her out.
Her name is Tabir. Hey,
Tabir?
Tabir. Yep. I was scared of her too. She knows this. I was really scared of her when I started, but now we're cool. I hope we're cool.
I'm sure you're cool.
Yeah, we're cool. But yeah, I took over for her, and those are the days
we're
that I have.
so far apart.
Those are the days that I have the most fun because it's like
Yeah.
we have so much fun on Twitter, you know?
Yeah.
We really do.
Yeah.
We make fun of things. We're serious too. Like our news department has grown a lot.
Oh, absolutely. And I remember when BuzzFeed was first the BuzzFeed that we knew when it started.
Yeah.
So it was very much like lists and quizzes, not even quizzes yet, honestly. It was just like
Disney princesses and stuff.
Yeah, it was like mindless click hole stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not down for this. Like, I was like, I'm too smart for this. I don't really care. Like, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then BuzzFeed started to grow so quickly.
Yep.
And it grew to the point where it was, yes, all of that fun stuff. Like, you could go to BuzzFeed to take a really fun quiz and to, like, crack up over a funny list.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could go and the journalists who work at BuzzFeed are phenomenal. And
Yeah.
the news department is just amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I love the work that they do. The most recent thing that I loved was they did like a 10-year anniversary special with Hurricane Katrina. There were a bunch of places who did something like that,
Yeah.
but they were like the first to really come out the clutch with it. Boom, we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
And all of it was so good. It was
Yeah.
a lot of people just did one, but I felt like they really wanted to touch all corners of the aftermath of that.
Yeah.
10 years later, and I really appreciate it. Or not, it wasn't 5, was it 5 years later?
I think
I think it was
10 now.
Because 1995...
It's 20. Our math, we went to Emerson, truly. Our
I know.
math is not good.
No, it has to be 2010. No, it has to be 2005.
2005.
Okay, yeah, because
Yeah.
we were 14, so
Yeah,
that makes
so
sense.
I know, which is crazy
That's
because
crazy.
here we are 24. How old are you?
I'm 24.
Hey now.
Hey now.
Hey now. Yeah, I'm really, and I'm not just saying this because we're on record, I'm like extremely happy. I've
That's
never
awesome.
felt like I've never really truly felt, other than Illustrated in the morning show,
Mhm.
where I got my start, if you will.
Yeah.
I've never really felt like part of a team. And I'm not afraid to say VaynerMedia was a really bad experience. I know people who work
Yeah.
there and they're amazing people.
And they love it,
And
they
they love
like it.
It was not good for me. And that, I think, is important, not to go off on a tangent, but for people our age, if
Mhm.
you're not happy...
What I think it's really important to realize is that you deserve to be happy in your job now. There's no reason for us to feel, in this day and age, that you have to be miserable and to feel complacent in this time where access to information and technology makes it so that we could be doing whatever we want or working like at some place where when we're in the midst of that work, like, we love it. I don't care that I'm 24.
Yeah.
I don't care that I'm young.
And you don't care that our parents would probably say, that's a huge name, like, don't don't leave that. Like,
right.
That's, you know,
and
what do you mean?
It's not about that to
No,
me.
it's really
not about that to me.
Something to add to that in the interim, like I used to work at the Gap. I've worked everywhere.
I used to serve.
Yeah.
When I first moved, remember like when I worked at Junior's Cheesecake.
Yeah.
I worked at Junior's Cheesecake, and then I served at a restaurant on the Upper East Side until I got like.
Do you remember you told me, because I was like, Darian, my job is like, I can't do this. Like, what do you like? I know you serve. Yeah. And I went to where you worked, and I was like, I knocked on the door, and I said, "Give me a job." And they were like, "Okay, what do you know about wine?" And I was like, "Well, I really like red wine."
Did you say that?
The lady was like, "She was like, how many years have you been serving?" And I was like, 2. Like I lied, right? Because I needed a job.
Yeah.
That didn't work out. I ended up working at the Gap. Didn't think after college. I said to myself, I'll never work retail again. I'll never like serve again. Yeah. But then reality hits you, and you do, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. Like if you have a part-time, if you have a side thing going on, if you have a nighttime job, if you have 2 nighttime jobs and you work on the weekend, like shout it out because that's admirable. I think.
I agree. You know? And like for me, I always said too. I was like, I'm not going to go back to serving, but you can honestly, number one, make good money serving, Definitely. And if you really had a good side hustle that you felt like was going to bring you to a place where you could transition out of that part-time job, do it. Mm-hmm. So basically, I guess what we like is being in a position where we are happy with our Monday through Friday.
Definitely.
That is something.
They may be.
Yeah, as long as that may be. But that is something that I believe that everybody, no matter what your age, should be striving for.
Yeah.
And we should be pressuring companies to create that. Mm-hmm. And we should be pressuring companies to have baby boomers and millennials in a room where they can like talk about their perspectives so that we can understand how to work together. Because that's like the biggest conflict is baby boomers, which are people like, I believe it's like over the age of 41 mm-hmm. or 51. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to work with millennials, and millennials don't know how to work with them.
Right.
I just think it's really interesting how I feel like a lot of corporate companies who are trying to change the way that they do business in order to make money, especially media companies, one of those big changes that I feel like they need to make is within like the culture and the politics of the workplace.
There's no reason to sit at your desk and say, I'm entry level, I'm not going to talk, I'm just going to watch, and I'm going to play by the rules, and then eventually I'm going to...
I don't want to play by the rules.
No.
I don't want to.
And on the other hand, don't go and be this asshole and, bust down the door. That's not how you do it either.
Yeah, that's not how you do it either.
You have to strike a balance between the two.
Yeah,
and there's no formula.
There's no formula.
You can't say and I just speak about what I know. Like, if you're in the music industry, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I'm going to do what, Lana Del Rey did, or I'm going to do what Lady Gaga did. That's not... You have to figure it out for yourself. Yeah. Because it's not going to be the same path.
I think there needs to be a balance between respect, but not just, respect for your elders, but also, respect for your peers.
Yeah.
Just a mutual respect across the board. And I also think that you need to be okay with making mistakes and bouncing back from them.
Yeah.
That's a big thing, too, is, when you're young and you kind of think you have an idea of how things should happen, that's not always the case.
No.
And when you make up, or when you mess up, you need to acknowledge it and not dwell in it. You kind of just have to bounce back from it. That's something that I learned, and I feel like I've mastered. If I make a mistake, I apologize for it, and I just continue to be excellent.
Yeah, you're forthcoming about it.
Right.
You're honest. I've made a mistake. I've made a bunch of mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And been like, look, I did this. I knew it wasn't supposed to happen. And then I'm going to go forward and not be...
Exactly.
And try not to do that again.
Exactly. So did you watch the movie Kids?
Yes. That's a lot. I couldn't sleep.
Tell me what you think. Well, first of all, we should say that this year and around this time is the 20th anniversary of Kids.
Right. And
Kids is a movie that came out in 1995, which meant that at around that time I was either 4 or 5 years old. You were the same as well.
I was 4, yeah.
And essentially it is about these kids who live in New York City. their play, or not even live in New York City, but New York City is their playground.
Yeah.
Like, they own the streets of New York.
Yes.
And the entire movie is cast with kids who they're not actors or actresses. They're real kids of New York. And it's about this plot with this main character named Telly. And he likes to have sex with virgins.
Yes, he does.
And come to find out, he has sex with this girl. She goes to get tested. She finds out that she has HIV. This movie broke the career of Rosario Dawson, who was like barely a teenager at this point.
And the way that she speaks now.
Oh my God.
When she started talking, I was like, who is that?
She was like, because the opening scene is them talking about how much they love to have sex. Right. And I want to know your opinion of the movie and like what was going through your head when you were watching it.
I'm very sensitive. I'm overly sensitive. So anything that has to do, and being gay also, anything that has to do with HIV, AIDS is very, very, very hard to accept. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say that, just because you are homosexual, that, there's I don't want to feed into the stereotype that, that all gay people have HIV right. or are at greater risk, because obviously straight people can also contract it.
As we see in the movie.
Right. Yeah. But watching it, well, first of all, was I really that bad as a kid? No. When I was 17, I really started doing bad stuff. But not horrible stuff.
Not that stuff.
Not that stuff.
Not like inhaling.
No.
Aerosol.
No.
And drinking 40s.
No.
And smoking. These kids were like 14 years old. They were not
young.
They were like peak teenagers.
Right. Like I was like trying to stay out till 11.
Yeah.
Trying. I was smoking weed and like
I
got my first tattoo.
I wasn't smoking weed.
You weren't?
I wasn't really into weed. I didn't really start smoking weed until I got to Emerson. Really.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, no, I was at 17, my best friend and I were like, let's go to Fordham. First of all, I was raised in Connecticut.
Yeah.
We said, let's go to Fordham. We were working at a preschool. We went to this place called Tough City. Sorry, Tough City. And they don't check IDs. I don't know if it's the same. This is like 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's the same now. 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. And they didn't check for anything, and they gave us a tattoo, and we left.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I remember you told me about this whole tattoo thing.
Right.
So that was like the worst thing that we were doing.
Right. But I guess in comparison to the movie, I was just really surprised. I don't want to say that the movie's not realistic, because I wasn't raised in New York, and I don't have that experience, so I can't say that no way these kids are doing that, because I'm sure this is some of their experience.
Right.
But it was surprising for me, I think. And it made me realize, like, I was lucky to grow up in a controlled enough environment, but I'm also thankful for the bad stuff I did, because I think you sort of have to go through. I
do too, and I think that if you're fortunate enough to do the bad stuff and still remain safe and alive is great.
Yeah, you're real lucky if you're doing both.
Right. Yeah. But the reason why Kids is an important movie for me has to do with the age at which I watched it, and kind of.
Maria.
So this is the story. Oh my god. So this is the story. So Kids came out in like 1995, which means I was 5 years old, and I think that was it. Really, when especially this. I mean, this is a film that went to Sundance, had a bunch of accolades, became really popular in like the indie festival stream, and then like made it to mainstream and whatnot. So by the time my parents had heard about Kids, I think it must have been 1996, 1997 maybe. And so I remember being with my parents, and we were over a family friend's house, and the family friends had a DVD of Kids, and they were like, "Have you seen this movie?" And they're like, "Oh, you gotta watch this movie. Like, this is crazy." Just they were talking about it as if they were talking about somebody else's kids.
Right.
Like,
and it was probably a tape. It was probably VHS.
I don't know. It was either a VHS or it may have been like
DVD.
An early
like a
DVD
disc or something.
Yeah, it was like it must have been. Right. So mind you, I'm in the room, and I don't even think they knew that I was listening, but I knew that this was a movie that I would never be allowed to watch.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you were getting the tea at 5. I know you were in the room listening, pretending not to listen, but you knew that you were
right.
trying,
So like I knew that this was like a wild movie, like
Yeah,
a crazy movie,
sure.
and it was called Kids, and I was like, well, I'm a kid,
So I'm gonna watch it. I'm allowed.
I stayed home from school one day solely to watch this
Did
movie.
you play hooky?
I played hooky basically,
Like I'm sick.
and
Alone?
imagine alone.
Ooh.
Imagine being 7 years old, and you, in the opening scene of Kids, is essentially Telly having sex with this girl,
Mm-hmm.
and I just remember getting to the point where it got to the movie where it was like too intense
For you?
that I had to turn it off.
Yeah.
I was 7. I had to have been like not like 7 years old, if
Yeah.
that.
You were like, no, this is not.
Yeah. So it just had like. So like those very first like scenes of the movie are seared into my head. Number one, and number two, I do love. I mean, now I've watched the movie more recently, but I am so in love with like New York culture.
Yeah.
Specifically between the times of I mean, this was in the 90s, but like late 70s, the 80s. Talk about a movie. Paris is Burning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All of those movies to me are so fascinating. Like to think that New York City was this world where like sleeping outside was not a big deal. It was more free. I'm not saying it was better, but to know that Soho was this place where a Zara didn't exist. This was a place for artists. Like it makes me think like who is the Madonna of our day?
Yeah. And this is so interesting that you bring this up because I've been watching a lot of like old tapes, like when BCBG was still open and when the Knitting Factory was still open, and you had RuPaul performing in the East Village when the East Village was cabs wouldn't go to the East Village, right? And you have Lady Gaga living in the Lower East Side. She paid $1,100. This is crazy. This is really crazy. She paid $1,100 for a studio in the Lower East Side, and now that same studio is worth $2,100 a month. So, and she lived there from 2006.
Tell us how you know that, James.
Well, I was like on YouTube and like always watching MTV Hits when I was like 14.
Yeah.
And then I was like, this is boring. Like, Natasha Bedingfield is whack. Like, Pink. Like, and then I was waiting for, like, someone to come out and really just, like, twist my life, like, fuck me up. And then Lady Gaga. I saw Just Dance. And I was like, at first I was like, who is this? With this blonde wig. You know?
Poker face.
Yeah, who is this girl? Like, good one. See you, you'll be away in 6 months. And then she didn't go away. And I was like, shit, like, this is like some good stuff, and it's different,
right? And
it feels old but still new. Like there's a quality about her, and people know this. She's been on the scene already since 2006.
Yeah, something like that.
And she really like her rise to fame was in 2009. But anyway, the point is, I study her a lot. And people make fun of me for it because they're like, oh, it's Lady Gaga. And I think there's a few different ways to view her. You can either view her as a joke or you can view her as a cultural touchstone. And I choose to view her as a cultural touchstone. And this is when my obsession with New York really began.
Okay.
So I was like, I want to go to the Lower East Side and I want to go to East Village and I want to come in. And I lived 45 minutes away from the city.
Yeah.
And I would take the train in alone and I would tell my mom that I was meeting friends. But really I was coming in.
Yeah.
And I would go to these places.
Wow.
And I figured out what her address was. And I went to her apartment at 176 Stanton Street in the Lower East Side, between Houston and Rivington. And I went there and I stood outside and I said, this girl is just like me. This girl is just like anybody else who wants to do something with their life.
Right.
That's
so important.
Yeah, and that was sort of the foray into like where did RuPaul perform when he was up and coming as a performer? Where did X, Y, and Z live, and how much did they pay, and where were they working, and where did they hang out? And like I've gone so far into this research that it's become obsessive that I will go to the bars that these people frequented, like Arlene's Grocery in the Lower East Side, and I'll go there and I'll I'll just stand there.
Right.
And like kind of, I don't know what I'm doing there, but I'm trying to, I guess I'm really aware of the way that New York is changing and the way that it's being gentrified, and like I'm white, so I'm sort of part of the problem. But I also feel like I have an understanding of what the history was, and I want to help preserve that, but I don't know how.
You don't know how.
And by going to these places, that's what I can do.
That's a good question. Like, how do you preserve the grittiness that we say that we love, and I do love about New York, but we also haven't fully experienced it, but there are documentaries that we can watch on Netflix do. Like how do you do that? Like, that's even a question for myself.
I think for me, the way to do it, I'm not going to volunteer on the weekend at like a historical preservation society. I'm not.
I think it has to do with your attitude.
Yeah, and I tried not to be that annoying kid or that annoying person who moves to Williamsburg and kicks somebody out who has rent control. I was reading this story, I think it was on Gothamist. A woman lived in Soho for like 40 years and paid $500 a month for a huge apartment because she'd been living there for 40 years. And the guy above her with an equal-sized apartment was paying $10,000 a month because he wasn't grandfathered in. He moved, he had a bunch of money, and he was playing his music really loud, and she would say, "Hey, you're playing your music loud all the time, can you turn it down?" And he said to her, "I'll turn it down when you pay $10,000 a month like I do." Right. So that's the kind of shit that bothers me.
That's like who you never want to be.
Right. And we talk about this a lot in my apartment. Like my friend Eliza and I, we talk about how like you can like help yourself and also help others. And we don't really have explicit conversations like, let's talk about how you can help yourself and others. We don't do like a Mr. Rogers Sunday morning thing.
Yeah.
But it just, in passing, we'll talk about it metaphorically, like, how do I not be an asshole?
I feel like the only way that you truly gravitate away from being that douchebag who you don't want to be is by learning. I'm not talking books. I'm talking about learning about your community, understanding to say hello to people who you see on the street, understanding what it's like to speak, and understanding what it is to be a part of a community.
Right.
And I think that actually that is something that a lot of us don't get right. My big thing is being black and living in Brooklyn but not being from this area is like I know that realtors aren't moving, aren't trying to build, and coffee shops aren't popping up because I live here. Because I already look like everyone who lives here.
And who's been here.
And who's been here.
40, 50 years
right.
longer.
But they're doing it to attract people who are white, right? So it's like, although they're not, things aren't changing because I'm coming to this community, although I'm not from this community, it is still a part of my job to make sure that I am someone who speaks, who says hello, who shows respect, and who goes a little bit out of my way to make sure that like I am being polite to people.
Yeah.
I mean, even beyond polite, like forming relationships with the people who are in your community.
Right, your neighbors, getting to know them, like knocking on doors.
Right, like.
I agree.
Yeah, like they're not like physically knocking on doors, but if you see someone,
you say hello. If they're getting their mail, hi, how are you? Like, have a good day.
And I still feel like that's a part of my job as someone who's moving to this.
Well, you probably had good parents.
That's
really?
It. Yeah.
I don't know. We all have to just take care of ourselves.
Especially here.
Especially here. New York makes you tough.
New York makes you grow up quickly.
Yeah,
going back to kids, those kids grew up quickly.
You grow up fast and you realize what you need to do and what you should be doing.
Do you want some more wine?
Sure. What you ought to do, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
the wine's actually good.
Okay.
Like, it's nice.
This Barefoot Riesling has like won awards before.
Really?
Look, it says Gold Double 2012 Ultimate Wine Challenge.
good because I like it.
It's good.
And it tastes kind of good warm. Like, I don't mind it. I really don't. It tastes like Sprite. It tastes like a Sprite.
You know, it literally tastes like a. It tastes like a.
It tastes like a.
It tastes like a dirty Sprite.
A ginger ale.
Have you listened to the album or heard of the album Dirty Sprite?
Dirty Sprite? I've heard of it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I haven't listened to it. Don't say Future.
Yeah, it's by Future.
Yes, I get it, but he's like mad rude. He is.
Why?
He's like, oh, like, well, he doesn't talk like that. But he's like, oh, don't bring your boyfriend around my kid. I'm like, Sierra has every right to bring that guy around your kid when he's out there, like, cheating. Cheaters don't get to say anything. My ex-boyfriend cheated on me. Shout out to Mitchell. I don't want to be, like, too meta, but I like that your podcast is called Am I Allowed to Like Anything? Like, if I were to tweet out, like, I love this new song by Haley Steinfeld, and I really do like her new song.
Who is that?
She starred in that movie True Grit, and now she's trying to be a pop star.
Okay.
But she has this song, I think it's called Love Myself.
Yeah.
And it's really good. But I feel like if I tweeted out, this song is trash, people would respond more to that than they would me saying, I like this song.
Right.
Like, people are almost, like, excited to say,
it's like weird. It's almost like you need courage to be optimistic. Right. It's weird. I'm trying to figure out what Lady Gaga is doing right now.
You know what? And I like, this is my favorite outfit.
Yeah. She's
a really good metaphor for the way that celebrity media works too.
Right.
Because it's actually happening to Taylor Swift now. So. Yeah.
Wait, what is it?
So
I don't even know what you're talking about right now. You hit this,
like, peak. Like, you hit this peak. Like, Lady Gaga sold 1 million albums in the U.S. in 1 week with Born This Way. And then Art Pop came out, like, 3 years later.
Yeah.
And people were like...
Wasn't as good.
No, it was not. And we can say that.
Yeah.
I like certain songs on it. Not all of them.
Not all of them.
A lot changed in her professional life too. Like her manager was.
Yeah, she got like a new creative director.
Yeah, like Lorianne Gibson wasn't a part of the picture anymore, and like Lorianne Gibson is one of my favorite. Oh my
god, I have
she's
never.
Really on.
Okay, I have
Katy
never
Perry,
met
Nicki Minaj.
Nicki Minaj. Everyone. Now she's with everyone. She is a national treasure.
Yes,
a fixture in
America's
culture. Lorianne Gibson, America's sweetheart.
I know. Her and Fetty Wap. I love both of them. But not that they're, it's apples and oranges, but I love her. I really do.
I love her.
I met her once in a Starbucks, and I was like, yo, just like that, because I was really excited. I was like, this is not even about who we've collaborated with, but like, I just really think you're cool. Like, will you take a picture with me? And she was like, yeah, of course. So she was cool.
Wait, I've never seen this. You post this to Facebook?
When I was living in LA, it was on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, fucking Friendster, whatever I had. I put it everywhere.
I need to look for this.
Yeah, I'll send it to you later. It's weeks back. I'm an overposter, so it's weeks back, months, years.
Okay, wait. So
she's cool.
Yeah. So Lady Gaga. What do we think Lady Gaga is doing? Because here's my thing. How I believe that celebrities, help to remain relevant is through the paparazzi.
Sure.
When we see them in a cute outfit, like Lady Gaga she's like been in the like no matter what, paparazzi's gonna take pictures of her.
Yeah.
But like I'm trying to figure out what she's doing.
So let me start with saying that Taylor Swift is about to go through what Lady Gaga went through. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am.
You're like a student of pop culture to me.
I've been studying it. Because I was really bored in Catholic school. I was really boring. So I said, let me go on Perez Hilton. Yeah. And I don't want to plug him. Please don't plug him. But I used to go on his site.
Right. I mean, I don't know any... Yeah, I don't go on Perez Hilton any longer. I did in high school, but not now.
Yeah. But so, you rise, you hit this peak, and then there's like nowhere to go but down. And then when you get to the bottom, there's nowhere to go but up. So like Lady Gaga has been like dragged.
Yeah.
And for what reason? Because she took creative control of her career and she said, I'm dropping my stylist. Well, I don't know if she dropped them, but I imagine she dropped her stylist. She had creative differences with the label, and she said to her manager, you go on to other stuff, I'm going to handle my own shit. And unfortunately, when you don't have, like, the apparatus to, like, maintain your celebrity status at the peak that it's at, you're going to disappear for a while.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have the people to write the emails, and you can't handle all that yourself. You don't have the guy to go buy you the leather clothes to bring to your apartment so you can change.
Leather clothes!
Like, the latex isn't available anymore, so you're going to go out in jeans, which she started to do. And, like, I've never seen her in flip-flops. I think, without dragging it out too long, I think she is now at a point where she's going to start to climb again.
I want to hear some music.
Yeah,
like,
so
that's my thing.
That's another thing. There is a rumor on Twitter going around right now that her next album is called Eden. And that the first single is going to be in September. And that she has collaborations with Adele and Beyonce. Yeah. And the Beyonce song is rumored to be called Circus. So there's a possible Beyonce collab. I don't think we're going to hear anything until September or October. I think it'll be parallel with the American Horror Story appearance that she's doing. And then she might be doing the
Wait, what's she doing with American Horror Story?
She's like the star of American Horror Story this fall. Yeah.
What?
She's the countess
of
the hotel.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so I'll give you some links. I don't have cable. I don't know if you do.
I don't have cable. I have a big flat screen TV over there. I don't even have it hooked up.
I'll give you some links that you can watch.
But, oh my God, that's amazing. Yeah. I am so happy. Like, I think what I've always admired about Lady Gaga, even when her music wasn't the best, her album wasn't the best, was like...
Because it wasn't.
Yeah, like...
And it was... I don't mean to cut you off.
No, what?
For her, it was the best. Like, it was what she wanted to do, and that's cool. Because she came through pop music, and she was like, I'm going to do what I like, also what the public likes.
Right.
And then once I hook everybody, I'm going to bring them, it's almost like a propaganda, but not in a negative way. She's like, I'm going to bring the fans in, and then I'm going to do what I want. And then I'm going to see who goes and who stays. Yeah. And the people who stayed are the true fans. And the people who left, I think, are the people who say, like, oh, like, I like Iggy Azalea now. You know, they'll like whoever's popping, so to speak.
And I think also another thing for me that I admire about Lady Gaga, and this is for many, many people who are famous now today.
You have to be willing to, like, fail.
Yeah, like, really, really, really fail.
Like, eat $1 pizza every day for, like, a month because you're so broke.
Or, like, 6 months or a year. Or, like, live in, like, way out in Brooklyn because you can't afford anything. Yeah, like, that's a reality for so many people. It's because you have decided to go for what you want to do in life.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't knock people's hustle. Like,
no, of course.
It's like you take somebody, even like Nicki Minaj, which it's so crazy to kind of use
Southside Jamaica.
Yeah, like it's so crazy to use these people as examples because they're grossly rich and famous now. But it was like
gets it.
Who would Nicki Minaj be?
If what she said? Well, she worked at Red Lobster.
Right. Attitude.
Yeah, she was like, I should have got fired. Or maybe she did. I don't really know. I watch a lot of Breakfast Club interviews.
Stop.
Like, I stay on YouTube watching Breakfast Club
interviews. Breakfast Club interviews are, like, the best thing about YouTube.
I love Angela. I love Charlamagne. All of them. DJ Envy, like, they're all... And even the guy who does the soundboard, who laughs at everything.
Who is that? I don't even know who that is.
But he's really funny,
But
too.
Breakfast Club is lit.
It is.
It's lit.
It is. But so I was watching that, and she...
Who Nicki Minaj was on?
Yeah. And I've watched the Lil' Kim ones, too. Because Lil' Kim should get, more praise.
Yeah.
People hate on Lil' Kim. I like Lil' Kim still.
So, you watch Nicki Minaj, and what did she say?
So, and she was like, I was doing mixtapes. I was doing, like, DVDs.
What any normal person...
She was doing what you and me are doing.
Yeah.
We don't make music, we make...
Like, other things. I make podcasts.
Yeah. And maybe one day you'll be top 40, like, radio morning, whatever you want to do.
Right.
Maybe you'll be on TV, maybe you'll be web, maybe you'll be on the radio, and it'll be 1 million listeners and not just you and me.
Right.
You know?
And that's the thing is, if not me, then who?
Right.
That's that is what I repeat to myself. If not me, then who? That's what I always say to myself. Yeah. We should all be fighting to do what makes us happy.
I think so, too.
Because it's a fight. It's a fight to do it.
You have to fight. Like, you
need to put yourself first for, like, an hour.
Yeah.
An hour. Like, do it. Put yourself first.
Yeah.
Put yourself up for a day.
Wake up 10 minutes early. Take a break. Smoke a cigarette. I don't know. Yeah. Do what you have to do to really just figure it out.
Yeah.
I think you Instagrammed something, or hardcover Instagram something. It was like, drink a cup of coffee and put on some gangster rap and handle it. And I was like,
that was hardcover. That wasn't me, but I totally agree with that.
It.
Okay, so let's get to the +1 segment.
Sure.
That's my new transition music.
Any horns like meow meow like Power 105 horns?
What's your +1? Because you texted me about it earlier, and I was like, "Oh my god, he thought about it."
Yeah,
Thank
I did.
you,
No,
Lord.
I really did. I was thinking about it all day at work. My +1 is a Twitter account called Shady Music Facts, and I'm going to tell you why.
I think I follow them, but I don't know.
I'm going to tell you why. Okay,
Oh
so
my
Shady
God.
Music Facts has become something that I cannot look away from. I very rarely, and I think it's the same for a lot of 20-somethings, I stay in the timeline. I don't necessarily type in accounts to go look at the profile, but I actively type in Shady Music Facts.
Is that it?
To see what's going on, right? So
I follow.
Yeah, so I'll go on. They don't follow anyone because it's Shady Music Facts.
Because it's shady.
But look, they have, right? So they'll tweet out stuff here, ready? Let me find something. I think, what was the one with Beyonce? It was Beyonce versus Gaga, and there's no reason to put them against each other because they're in different lanes completely. But it was Lady Gaga was not nominated for a Grammy for the album Born This Way. Beyonce was for the album 4, but Lady Gaga sold more, even though 4 won a Grammy. You see? So
yeah,
this is why
that's what they do.
Right, and then they'll follow up with or they'll be Taylor Swift has never outsold Dark Horse by Katy Perry, and then they'll be but Katy Perry's last 3 singles haven't outsold more than one of Taylor's this year or this decade. They get into it.
They're very analytical.
But the reason it's my +1 is because it's
Do you know who runs this account?
No. Nope.
We need to know where they live. They probably live in Nebraska.
Yeah, and who is it? Who is it? Because the lingo that they use, I would think it's I think Azalea Banks from this Twitter. But
that's funny.
So the reason I love it so much though is because I feel it ties in so well with what you're doing here. I'm allowed to Lady Gaga and Katy Perry. I'm allowed to Lil' Kim and Nicki Minaj. I'm allowed to New York and LA.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to Pepsi and Coke.
Right,
don't you know what
I'm allowed to be problematic. I mean, none of those things are truly problematic.
They don't mean anything. But,
right, no, but I see what you're saying. It's it doesn't have to be versus anything. James. So I actually have one last question.
Sure.
I like to ask everybody this.
Sure.
You already know what it is because I'm organized and I sent you the question.
Yes, and I've listened to this podcast before with Hunter.
Thank you.
And I know what's coming.
So, want to know what is your dream right now? What do you think about? What do you want right now?
Right now.
Right now.
Right now, in this moment, I want to feel like I'm getting back to my mom. I want to be able to take care of her. And I also want to eventually free myself of a 9-to-5 sit-down job. Because I really am happier than anyone. Well, as everyone's happy in my job, because right now it's my dream.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to be 64, with a sciatic nerve bust. You know what I mean? I want to be free. I want to be able to do things. I want to
You want your time to be your time.
I want to give commencement speeches. I want to do that.
I want to give commencement speeches. I want to give commencement speeches in jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to dye my hair bleach blonde. Do you answer this question?
No, I do answer this question.
I feel like this podcast is your +1.
Really. You know what? You're right. This podcast is my +1. It's just fun, and I can put it up, and it gives me this freedom to say what I want to say.
Yeah.
All the time. So.
And on that note, I think taking a page from Lady Gaga's book, as we come full circle here,
Amen.
is you can lie every single day. You can lie every single day about who you are.
Yeah.
And what you want to do, and the things you want to do. And believe in that lie so hard that eventually it becomes your truth.
Right.
And I lie to people all the time about who I am. I'm delusional about how successful I want to be. Because I think I want that.
Too. I mean, it's
good for you, though. It's not a bad thing.
It's good. It's good for us because I don't know about you, but I have some student loans, and I literally have to be rich.
Okay, that's the thing. It's crippling sometimes.
Oh my god, we can't even talk about it.
And I don't want to talk about it. Right.
I don't know. Now we just acting crazy. It's probably time to go now.
We've had a few.
Yeah. We finished this whole bottle of, like, Riesling.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't super
I feel good.
big. I feel good.
I could drink that on my own. I know you could, too.
Yeah, I feel like I have.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, God. My mom listens to these.
She
I'm
does.
very happy about it.
I'm so happy about that, too. We're not acting up, I promise. We're not.
No, we're not
being
acting
good.
up. We're very civilized people.
Yeah.
But, okay.
All right.
Thank you, James.
Thank you for having me. Seriously.
You're
this
welcome.
Has been such a
You're
pleasure.
the first white male to be on this podcast.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope something has come. I hope that you know that there are. Well, can I say this? Like woke white males. I'm trying to be. Can I say that? You can tell me if I can.
Yeah. Wait. Woke white. I'm
like
trying.
Woke white males. Like they exist.
But
I feel like.
But do you feel?
I'm
like
not
what?
trying to defend the white male, please. I am not.
Right.
Because I mean, I don't hang out with white males. I don't.
Okay, so what are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say like they're out there, and I like hope that people take like account. Like I hope people start taking more responsibility for themselves, especially as white males.
Yeah, you just hope that that the woke white male starts to multiply.
Correct.
I think
That's
I feel that way
to
about
it.
society. In general.
That's it.
So, all right. Goodbye, woke people and not woke people. We hope you got something out of this, and thank you for tuning in.